Gina. I'm very excited to be here, and thanks for sharing the stats about how Accenture supports women careers. I'm very excited to be here and to introduce to you our panel and to facilitate the next few minutes of our panel discussion. So first, I'll introduce our panel, and then I'll start with a question for all the panel members. First, I'll start with Ashley Miller, who's a managing director in Accenture's Technology Innovation Group. We also have Nicole Lanza, who's a managing director, a banking cloud leader for North America. We have Nidra Dixon, another managing director leading our Procurement Plus global supplier inclusion and sustainability. We have Sven Loberg, a managing director leading our North America Google practice within our Cloud First organization. And we have Elise Levy, Accenture's Northeast Technology HR business partner. And Carolyn Gale, managing director responsible for our technology, health, and public sector practice in Canada. So I'll start with our panel, and I'll toss it over to you, and feel free to introduce yourself further, but just a general question. What is something you believed earlier in your career, but think about differently now? We'll start with Ashley.
Thank you so much, Danielle, and hello, everyone. Pleasure to be here. Ashley Miller. I'm a managing director with Accenture, and I lead a group that helps lift up startups and introduce them to Accenture's clients within a practice we call Accenture Ventures and Open Innovation. Something I thought early on in my career that I've had a change of heart around is that time in your seat equals productivity. As a young worker starting out, I thought I needed to just be in the office from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. and work all night. But as I grew in my career and then had a family and have 2 young kids, I realized it's much more around productivity. And that old phrase, you got to hit your big rocks first, get the big rocks, into the base, and then you can fill in with the pebbles and the water and the sand. So really figuring out and prioritizing, just being maniacal about prioritizing. What do you need to get done today? But how do you stay true to yourself? That's what I've learned.
I love that, Ashley. Thank you for sharing. Carolyn, how about you?
Hi, and good afternoon, everyone. And thanks, Danielle, for leading off this panel. One of the things that I thought of earlier on in my career, and of course it was front and center to me, being home in COVID, and in Canada we are still in a lockdown, at least in the Toronto area. Going into the basement and finding all these boxes, opening them, as they said, Accenture, and then realizing I had boxes and boxes of notes of various women's initiatives that I've attended in the past 23 years. And I'm a note taker. And so I took copious notes, interviewing all types of leaders. And, what I've now learned is, we're all unique. We all bring that thing that makes us special and makes us differentiated from each other. And, when I joined, we were called, Anderson robots. And other terms, but I thought it was enough to read and hear what everybody else did, write it down because I was gonna follow that to the letter, and I realized you couldn't live up to that, right? Everybody else has their own story, everybody else has their own journey, and it's unique and differentiated, and that's what actually makes you special. And so you really need to start with that confidence within yourself, right? We're all very smart, we all have valuable things to offer, but we have to believe in that. And so I've discarded this view that, I have to wear the same navy blue suit like everybody else. I'm in a pink phase this year in my pink dress, pink lipstick. So, and that's fine, right? People are wanting to learn from me with what I have versus what I look like in trying to mimic somebody else. So that's what I've learned, and that's what I would tell my junior Carolyn. Be you, be proud in being you, and you have it in you.
That's great. Thank you, Caroline. I love the pink phase. You look great. Ben, how about you? Same question.
Yeah. Good afternoon, everyone. Sven Loberg, Managing Director. I lead our North America business group for Google Cloud. So been with Accenture about 20 years now. And so grew up in the firm as certainly someone very technical architect. And over the years, certainly, echoing kind of some of Ashley's comments, certainly it's kind of finding those hours of the day that you're most productive It's not about kind of the quantity, it's the quality of those hours, as well as then, the understanding that, nothing is done by yourself, in the sense of you are not the only one. Certainly, as Accenture has grown, over 550,000 people, it's understanding kind of how to activate your network and finding, those you're not going to know everything. And so it's understanding that, know what you know, and also know what you don't know, and engage then, that wonderful network of people that and certainly at a place like Accenture, there are quite a few, and bring those. And that's how to be successful. So that's what I've learned, as far as just understanding kind of what what is your kind of calling card and expertise, but knowing also what you're not necessarily the best at, and finding out who is.
That's great. And you find that everyone's very helpful, right? So Elise.
That's right. There's always someone looking to help kind of make you successful. That's right.
Great. Thanks, everyone. Hi, I'm Elise Levy. I am our Northeast Technology HR business partner. And I think for me, it's be bold. I think I started my career right out of college, and I was in consulting. And I was in consulting for about 4 years. And I was just like, okay, I'm getting staffed here. I'm going to do this. I'm getting staffed here. I'm going to do this. And I realized this really wasn't the type of work or the type of, what I wanted to do. And I felt that I needed to leave Accenture. And I remember talking to at the time, the partner responsible for New York. And he said, well, what are the things that you like to do? And we talked about it, and I moved into human resources, where I've been ever since, and I love it. And I look back, and while it was only maybe 4 or 5 years of my career, I spent 3 of those really not liking what I was doing, but too scared or too timid to make a change. And finally, when I decided to make a change and really do what I wanted to do, I found, as others were saying, people at Accenture want to help you get to where you want to be. And it has helped me every step of my career, remembering that and being bold and going for, what interests me, and not being scared to change paths along the way.
That's great. And obviously we've worked together for a long time, so I'm glad that you took the opportunity to figure out a different role that you could play within Accenture. So thank you, Elise. Nidra, same question.
Yeah. Hi, everyone. I'm a managing director, and I've been here for 20 years. And I think I have one of the coolest roles at Accenture. So I get to lead our global supplier inclusion and sustainability team in 20 countries. So I get the chance to help all of our diverse-owned businesses grow and scale, and also integrate successfully into our supply chain or those of our clients. I think I would really go back and tell myself, my younger self, that it's okay to share your story, and to share some of your successes. We think everyone sometimes that you don't want to brag or, really boast about anything, but there's very good ways that you can share your story, and it could really help someone that's new coming in, but then it can also advance your career. So I'm from Arkansas, and my parents taught me, just put your head down, work really hard, and everyone will take notice. And that does happen, but I do think you have to share your story. And I think you'll learn that today when you're networking. So it's really important to tell everyone and share some of the great things that you're doing. So I've learned to do that, and that has been really great for my career here at Accenture. So looking forward to it.
Great advice. Thanks, Nidra. And Nicole.
This is a great question, Danielle. Thank you so much. So Nicole Lanza, I lead banking cloud for North America. So I work with all of our financial services clients to help them adopt public and private cloud, hybrid cloud environments. I do that everything from the sort of upfront strategy to the technical operations. I like to go deep and wide, and this has been probably one of the most fun jobs I've had yet in my career, which surprises me because I'm older than I look. So I think what I would tell my younger self is your career will evolve and it will give you a great story to tell, instead of, expect to come out of college and do this one thing and go deeper and better in that thing, right? And the advantage of working for larger companies, somebody like Accenture, which is 500,000 strong, is that your career will take, those many paths, and you learn so much from the sideways movements that you take in the course of your career. So I actually started off in our traffic systems. So it's very strange that I now work in the banking sector in an entirely different world, but it's okay. And you just have to learn to roll with it. And it becomes a great experience, and just expect that's the fun part of working.
Awesome. Thanks, Nicole. So I'll start with our first question, maybe back to you, Elise. So Accenture's hiring a lot of cloud-focused jobs. Can you share what diverse hire opportunities will shape in the coming months and the type of candidates we're looking to hire?
Sure. So I know Gina talked about, the progress and the commitment that we have to diversity, and really around 2025 being at 50-50 gender equity. And we are really making an investment when we look at cloud. And I'm not sure, if everyone has seen, the press releases that came out, but we are investing $3 billion in Accenture in our cloud business. And part of that investment is around recruiting. And one of, especially, and I see this every day from an HR perspective, one of our priorities is working and partnering with, with WIC, with other companies that give us insights and give us access to women, whether it's in cloud or even women that are looking to develop and, more technical, coming back into the workforce. I know Gina also talked about I relaunch, where we're bringing women that have been out of the workforce. So really focusing on outreach to those sources where we can identify and help improve and bring in gender and I would say all inclusion and diversity, right, folks, into Accenture. And when we look at the types of individuals that we are looking for, we're looking for individuals that have demonstrated leadership skills, that have a strong work ethic, individuals who are passionate, curious, creative, and solution driven. I think we've heard about everyone's stories here and everyone's path here. And while we talk about, recruiting for cloud, we have so many great skilling programs in Accenture. So we don't want people, to say, hey, or especially women sometimes say, hey, I didn't click all the boxes, so I'm not going to apply. We really want to, be inclusive in terms of, you don't need to have, click all the boxes. You need to have that intellectual curiosity. You need to have that, that drive to learn. And then once you get into Accenture, we have so many different programs and support and training to help build those skills.
Great. Nicole, do you have a perspective on this as well?
I do. So I'm actually a recent hire to Accenture. It looks like most of the 20 plus year veteran, but I've gone through the recruiting process recently with Accenture. And I have to tell you, it was a different experience than any I've been through. It was very human centric. So the folks who were put me through the recruiting process, they took the time to get to know me and figure out what motivated me and what I was passionate about. And they as that process evolved, they figured out where, I would fit best in the organization and where I was most likely to thrive, which is an entirely different approach than most, right? Most of them have a role and they're looking for somebody who fits the role. And that's not at all, how Accenture thinks about hiring. So I really do encourage you to talk to us, because it's likely that, there's a path for you here somewhere, and it's not, even if it's not that obvious.
Thanks for sharing your personal experience with that process. Our next question is, can you share about Accenture's company and how we foster growth, inclusion, and belonging within the company via the communities we partner with? Nidra?
Yes, if I can get off mute. Thank you very much. And what I've seen, and I really think that's important to understand, and even, as someone said, it evolves over time. I've really seen the growth of how we not only say we're going to be inclusive in our culture, we're actually walking that talk. And when I say that, that means we're holding leaders accountable. And so with our culture that's really coming in, we're not only really saying that, yes, we're going to hire women, we're going to have women succeed. We're acknowledging where we don't have this. We're acknowledging where we need to grow and learn. And for me, I think that's the first step, is acknowledging it and then actually having a plan that you're going to execute. And it's so great to see that we not only have women, and I like to call them, as we call them in supplier diversity, the he's for she. So there's so many that we will see a lot of our male colleagues will raise their hand to really help foster and bring other people along. So I do see that our culture is really saying we are going to be so inclusive, but we're going to be intentional. And we also do that with our supply chain as well. And that's what I get to see when we look to not only look at our workforce, but we get to look at our supply chain and also make sure that we too are looking for those great women-owned businesses, veteran-owned businesses that we can help thrive and we can collaborate with together. So I really love the culture that we're cultivating here.
Nedra, I'll take the thread that you've laid out and build on it a little bit, if you'll allow me, because your answer was so great. You talked about how we walk the walk. I'm really proud of what Accenture does to actually analyze and study and understand why inclusion and diversity is a necessary part of growth. So every year for International Women's Day, at least the last 4 years, I believe, we've published a report that looks at the strategic importance of inclusion to a growth mindset of employees and to the bottom line of the performance of our company. So we walk the walk because we know that inclusion and diversity is critical to our success. And a couple of stats from some of our recent reports. We've learned that the proportion of employees who don't feel included in their organization is actually 10 times higher than what employers believe. So we're also helping do this for our clients because we know that it's underreported, the way in which employees feel included in their organization, and that inclusion is actually a necessary component for innovation. In order for employees to unleash their innovation potential and have an innovation mindset, they have to feel included and seen and heard at their core. So really excited that you talked about how Accenture is walking the walk. And I think our research helps to buoy that and reinforce why we do it, because it's so critical to our financial performance.
Absolutely.
That's great. And thanks, Ashley. I see the passion in your response for sure. And, similar experiences. I mean, I lead some of the inclusion and diversity work specifically for the people at the clients that we work with. And we're constantly looking at, our teams on the ground and how we bring that inclusion and diversity lens to all the work that we do, even at our clients. So thank you for that added commentary. Caroline, did you have a perspective on this as well?
So thank you, Danielle. So, I'm not going to repeat what everybody else said, just to specifically about this topic, which relates to culture. I think culture is very important to us at Accenture. I get asked this question a lot because I've been at Accenture for a long time, but, how do we keep refreshed? There are 569, as I checked just before I got on this call, 569,000 people working in 120 countries. Isn't it overwhelming? Like, does anybody feel special? How do you highlight what one person does? Is like a drop of rain in an ocean. And I would say it's big, but it's also small, right? So each country operates in a bit of a different way. So I work in Canada, and we have a whole different perspective in terms of how we look at our culture. We have different focus groups. I'm actually leading a focus group for culture, working with our CEO in Canada. looking at that and certain things that we're doing for our folks. I know that there were some Canadians I saw in the chat. So pace, space, and grace, and certain things that we're doing this year in terms of, grace, providing more gratitude for employees, et cetera, et cetera. But also you have an opportunity. A lot of folks who are on this call talked about the fact that you're not in it alone. So I am managing director. I've been at Accenture 23 years, but I'm also very unique. I've worked in every industry. I am now the technology leader for health and public sector, but until April 1st of this year, I was our technology leader for financial services, which may seem like a pretty big shift, but the nature of the role that I've done and why I've worked across different platforms, different industries, is I am known as one of our lead fixers for our problem jobs in Canada. And I also, just because of my own value system and what I want to do, I like to learn new things. So I was thrown into, our most complex job, the year before that, our biggest cloud job, the year before that, and it just happened to be in different industries. But I wasn't just thrown in and said, good luck, you're off on your own. There are leaders that are incentivized to help you to be successful, and you work with folks to understand what are your strengths. What is it that you're interested in? What do you want to be in the future? And we're actually, all of us around the world are going through that process now it's a performance management process. And we're going through that for every single one of our staff. And I hear this over and over for our new people. I can't believe you guys are doing this for everyone. I can't believe that there is a real focus on how we grow our people in the future. And that is a focus, right? So you heard people talk about, I&D, and you heard a lot of discussion about gender diversity. And, there is a goal by 2025 for us to have full gender parity. But, we're also focused on a number of other facets from inclusion and diversity as well. And overall, to help our culture to be strong, to help our people feel supported. It's a war for talent. We all want the best people, whether it's, I've worked with acquisitions. I know some folks that are on here are entrepreneurs who want to also hear about how we do business development and how do they align with Accenture. I'm very proud to say I'm working with an organization that continues to grow and develop and puts their people first.
Great. Thank you for sharing. Thank you so much. So now a question for you, Sven. As an organization, we're partnering with win enterprise opportunities. Can you share what type of opportunities you're seeing today in our customer base and what kind of solutions we're exploring?
Yeah, so in this world, obviously, very focused on cloud, and in many ways, I think has enabled a whole spectrum of new opportunities. Right, the barriers of entry, what you can now do as far as with working with the different cloud providers and the services, and just what can be built in a very quick, a relatively quick time is frankly, the opportunities there are greater than ever. So I think in this part, and I also kind of do a lot of work with various kind of open source and other kind of areas of things where it's all about kind of building community and building off of an ecosystem of partners. So what we're seeing more and more is this this ecosystem play as far as power of the ecosystem, which plays into certainly on the technology side, but also just finding value. So I'd say, in this case, we're more and more. So I obviously represent kind of some of the Google Cloud areas, but really it's across the board for any of them, which is okay. Try to look for what can be an area that you can be differentiated in and build off of other partners in the ecosystem. And so that's a lot of what Accenture is doing, right? It's saying, hey, we are partners with a number of different, companies, certainly the cloud providers. What can we do that now amplifies that? And also with an industry aspect, because obviously a lot of what Accenture does is having deep industry expertise. It's now taking that, working then with a particular cloud provider, and then in some cases also bringing in some of these small startups that have come up with these really innovative ideas, and how can we then go to market and really kind of do some interesting things with clients. who are always looking for the next kind of area of differentiation, how they can work differently. So those would be my thoughts on kind of where we're seeing kind of opportunity, how we're working with the ecosystem to build new partnerships.
Great. And I'd love to hear from you, Ashley, from the innovation perspective. Same question.
Yeah, I mean, I really appreciated the answer. And boy, I get it. It is to penetrate Fortune 500 companies, to navigate Accenture. There's a question in the thread. I look forward to talking with Karen about how can you navigate Accenture to take it really benefit our clients without being hit of a large company. So I really appreciated Sven's answer, because it all comes down to identifying the unique value proposition and how it aligns to our clients' needs. So we're going to market within Accenture Ventures and Open Innovation, our practice that looks at the emerging startups, and to some of the questions in the thread, even pre-Series A. I mean, we're looking at early stage startups and identifying how they align to strategic innovation gaps that we're seeing across the board of our clients. So key areas that we've touched on already related to talent. Gina talked about, the future of AI and how that's going to have serious repercussions on the workforce of the future for our clients and ourselves. So we're looking at, do we help our clients rescale for the future? Stage startup called Skyhive out of Canada, our good friends up north, Carolyn. We're working with startups like Pipeline Equity that help identify gaps in payments and rewards for from an enterprise-wide perspective. We've talked a little bit about sustainability. We're working with Arabesque S-Ray that helps you benchmark how you are performing in areas related to environment and social and government, ESG, as well as inclusion and diversity. And so you can understand how you compare to your peers and where there are opportunities for improvement. We've also talked about cloud, and we're working with startups both in the journey to cloud, so how you get your data to cloud and migrate efficiently in the cloud. How are you sharing your data with competitors and partners? Triple blind that helps to mask the data so that you can share it, even HIPAA compliant, and clients like the Mayo Clinic to run analytics on patient in a HIPAA compliant way. So I think Sven hit it head on that, helping to how you align to the strategic solve for our clients helps to more efficiently position potential partners in front of clients. And then since I have the mic, I can't help but share, I'm just so proud of what Accenture is doing with our Black Founders Development Club, Black Founders Development, BFD program, to invest in female-led and Black entrepreneurs, because there is a gap in how Black-led startups are funded. And we need to solve for that. And we need to we as Accenture need to help solve some of these problems related to equity and inclusion in the early stage companies. So thanks. I hope that shed some light and built off the great answer from Sven.
Yes, thank you, Ashley, and thank you again for sharing your passion. I know we're just about at time. I want to thank all the panel members for sharing their personal stories and answers to our questions. And I'll turn it back to Raisa Noel for our next session.